A few weeks ago, I saw this post on the front page of Reddit. Girlfriend was a bit too hyped about the Switch reveal. To keep her grounded, I had her hold the reminder box. And although this picture is probably taken horribly out of context, unless his girlfriend is a married woman, the message behind the post is still the same. Don't get hyped for the games from the Switch presentation because you could end up getting hurt like a lot of people did with No Man's Sky. And it's this kind of thinking that I worried would be a result of the game's launch. Back in my No Man's Sky video, I talked about some of the lessons that should have been learned from the game, and I also expressed my concern about some of the messages that I didn't think gamers should be taking away from it. I feared that people would grow pessimistic of the peaceful exploration genre, but first and foremost, I feared that people would use this game as a platform to prove to others that you shouldn't get hyped for video games. And it looks like that's happening, but I don't think it's right. Getting hyped and excited for things is natural. It's part of human nature to anticipate things and react accordingly to what we think is going to happen. Jumping on the hype train is fine, but where the wheels start to come off is where we don't put any serious consideration into what we are getting hyped about. I briefly talked about this in that other video, but the concept of trust needs to become more prevalent. Trust is the most underrated and underappreciated asset in the gaming industry, and I do not know why. How is it that an indie studio like Hello Games, that has virtually no track record aside from this game, can release a few trailers and have everyone jump on board? How is it that people can sit and watch gameplay footage for hours on end, yet don't care enough to do a quick Google search into who is making the game? And even the people who did know about the studio's lack of experience, no one cared. We saw the footage, we liked what we saw, and we jumped on the hype train. And that is when getting hyped for games becomes dangerous, when no consideration is put into the people making the game. So when I see a game like No Man's Sky compared directly to the likes of Zelda, I'm left scratching my head. How is that fair? How is a director who's worked on multiple games that are considered to be masterpieces, dubious amounts of developer experience, and a studio with an insane track record for first-party titles gets put into the same category as Hello Games? I'm hyped as hell for Breath of the Wild, half of which is because I'm into game design and I'd like to think that I can recognize good game mechanics, but the other half, the more significant half, is that I have trust in Breath of the Wild. I trust that this man can direct a large-scale video game because he's proven it in the past. I trust the rest of the development team based on their experience, and I trust Nintendo to deliver a quality game for one of their biggest first-party titles. The same thing can be applied to Mario Odyssey. The same can be said about Xenoblade 2. I trust them. My trust dictates whether or not I get hyped for something, which means I won't get hyped for every single game that I think looks good. I'm not hyped for Rime. Everything I've seen about it tells me it's going to be a good game, but I'm not hyped. Optimistic would best describe the way I feel about it. As for my pure, unregulated excitement, Tequila Works hasn't earned that yet. If I play Rime and I end up loving it, then you best believe I'll be hyped for whatever project they reveal next. But until then, I'll stay reserved. On the other end of the spectrum, my hype for Persona 5 has reached new heights. Just thinking about it has me bouncing around the room like a 5-year-old. Why? Because it's part of a series that I absolutely love. The game is being developed by the same individuals who brought me those games, and it's under a studio that has an amazing track record. The end. And that's the difference that earning my trust makes. If you can earn my respect through experience, then I will gladly support you from the start. I made mention of this in the No Man's Sky video, but I honestly feel like a game from that game company wouldn't get any more trust and respect in the beginning than one from Hello Games. That game company has already developed 3 extremely well-made, well-received video games, all of which were huge steps for games as an artistic medium. And despite those accomplishments, it'll barely mean anything when they reveal their new project. Don't get me wrong, people will get hyped for it, but because they're an artsy-styled indie studio like Hello Games, they're going to be hurt by the mess that was No Man's Sky, and I can already hear it now. I'm not going to get this game at launch because I learned my lesson with No Man's Sky. This game looks great, but I'm scared because No Man's Sky. I'm not going to be excited because No Man's Sky. Now, I'm not saying that the studios that earn your trust will always meet your high expectations. There's simply no way of knowing whether or not you're going to straight out love a game until it's in your hands. But knowing and trusting the studios who make your anticipated games makes sure that, at the very least, you'll have an enjoyable experience with it. If you care enough about an upcoming game, all you have to do is 5 minutes of research, and you'll get a good idea of whether it's a game you should be hyped for, or a game you should stay cautiously optimistic about. Games don't just pop up out of thin air. The people working on it dictate how good it's going to be. So if you do a bit of looking, you'll notice that there are always warning signs.